Hi, and welcome to the 6th tutorial in the Python, Pandas, and Spreadsheets tutorial series. In our last tutorial, we were able to read 66 Excel spreadsheets worth of data, and we collected one team of it was all baseball team data. We collected one team, and we made a new spreadsheet with just that team. And then we were able to make a plot of their batting average as it's changed from year to year. So we picked one team to do that, and I made sure that that team had data in every column or all of the 66 sheets we wanted to look at. So today we're going to figure out how to do it generally for any team and how to handle any of the exceptions. Some of the teams didn't exist in 1954 when we were starting, I think, and some of the teams only existed for a short period of time in the middle. So we're gonna build a general way to loop through. First, we're going to figure out how to store all the team names, and then we're going to loop through all those team names and make a spreadsheet for each team. And we're going to handle all the exceptions when the team didn't exist. So let's get started. Mostly, we're going to be able to keep everything we have here. So we're going to just do some modifications to it. And the first thing we'll do is we're going to move the column name and column value. I'm just going to move them up to here and put a little space there. Alright, that'll be the first thing. So the first thing that we really want to do is we don't want the column name to the column value to be one team. We want it to be lots of teams. So let's build a collection of all the team names. So to do that, we're going to start by making a list. Team names equals empty list. And we'll say, again, we can get all this information by looking at the, looking at stats year, like doing this loop for year and years. So we'll start a loop up here. We'll say for year and years, and then what do we want? We want to add team names equals. We're going to say plus equals. So we're going to be adding to our empty list, and we'll add to it stats year. So that gives us the data frame for each of the spreadsheets that we wrote. And we want, what do we want? We want the column name. So, and we want to convert that to a list. So in Pandas, you could do that by saying toList. Open close parenthesis. Okay. So what this plus equal does is it says I'm expecting a list. So take my list and then append to the end of it everything in this other list. So then we make sure that what we supply on this side of that plus equals is that another list. And you can imagine that if we do this for all 66 teams, that we're going to get a lot of overlap, a lot of team names that show up every time, and they get added to the list every time. But that's okay, because we can use another function. So once we've created our comprehensive list that's got all the team names, we will say team names, with a capital N, equals list set team names. And so the function set is going to take that list of team names and eliminate any duplicates, because that's mathematically what a set is. A set doesn't have duplicates in it. And then we're forcing it to be a list because in Python, a set is a separate data structure, or it's a separate kind of thing from a list. So what we want to end up with a list, so we make a set of the team names, and then we force that set to be a new list. And we redefine it as our team name. So now we have a list of team names that only includes unique names. Now there's a problem, because if we look at some of our data here, we can see that there's something here, and this one in 1954 there's league average. Well, that's not a real team. We don't care about that. And other times there's league average and there's TM. And sometimes there's also this empty cell. That's going to show up as not a number. So we want to handle those exceptions first. So to handle those exceptions, we will go back into our sheet here, and we will say, what will we say? Okay, we'll say team names dot remove, and so I'll just pick TM. So we don't want TM, and if you don't want to, you don't have to remove these, and it will be fine. This one you should remove though. Remove, and we'll say mp dot nan. And so to make that work, we have to actually go up to there. Well, we don't have to go to the top, but we should. We'll say import numpy as np. So numpy is another package in Python, that numbers Python, and mp.nan returns the value nan, which is not a number, and that's what's gonna be in the cell when we look for it. So if we preemptively go here and say remove any instance of nan, which there should only be one, then we'll make sure that we get rid of that. So then, yeah, finally we can add one more. Well, we'll just want to see what that was. League average, right? LGAVG. So we can just copy that, and we go back here. All right. So now we made a set of team names. We removed all the team names that we want to make sure that we're not making a spreadsheet for. So we're off to a good start. And so now we have everything in place that we need. So we want to start a new loop. And I think we want to start it up here. So we're going to say for, and again, just to make life easy on ourselves, we're going to pick some special names. So for call val, because we define column value or call val as NYY. So now we'll just say for call val, in team names. Or sorry, it's just team, I gotta be consistent. Make sure I'm calling it team names everywhere. Okay. For call val and team names, now we want to highlight everything down here and tab it out. So I'm hitting tab, that's adding 4 spaces to put it inside of my for loop. But we're not done yet, because I've already done this, so I know all the mistakes, and I'm helping guide you through them. If you do this on your own, something like this, you'll find these mistakes and you'll have to figure this stuff out yourself. But that's why you're here, because you want some help. So, the first thing we want to do is we want to, sometimes the team name that's going to be in the list of names, it won't have existed back in 1954, right? So you'll be looking for data that exists in 1954. It's not there. So inside of this loop here for year and years, we can say, we'll start with this df stats year, that's fine. But we'll say if year equals, and just to be general, we'll say years 0. That means that's basically if the year is the first year in the list of years, and in our case we know that our years go in order, then we'll say for key in data frame. So we're going to loop through all the headings of the data frame, all of the column headers. Then new df equal key. I'm doing this wrong. New df key. We're taking an empty data frame, which we've just defined up here, new df, and we're going to add to it the column header and say that column header is an empty list. Okay? And so now, outside of that loop, we'll say we want to add one more thing to that, because besides adding all the column headers, we're also going to add the column header year. So we can just say new df year equals open close parentheses. Okay, so now we've created a new data frame that's a set of empty lists, and that's fine. So now what we want to do, we want to do the same routine here where we look for the row that has the column name in it. The problem is, like we said, we're anticipating that sometimes the column name won't be there. So we're going to use some functionality that's in Python, which I have grown to really like, which is you can get in a lot of trouble using it, but you can make a lot of progress using it too if you use it right. We're going to say try, and so try means it's going to do this until it comes across an error. So an error might be it can't find it. But then we'll have except. So once it does come across an error, we can tell it to do something else. And so what we'll say is in the exception, meaning we looked for the team name and the team name didn't exist. So if that happens, then we'll take our new data frame, which we were sure that we created, and we'll say that equals new df.append, and we want to put in an empty row. And to do that in Python, or with Pandas, you say pd.series open close parentheses. So that's going to put in a series of just empty values for that particular line. And we need to make sure that we say ignore underscore index equals true. All right, so that's step one. Then we say new df col name equals, so the column name is the team name, right? So we want to make sure that we can still fill out some of the data that we know. So we'll say the column name, and in fact then we'll say dot iloc, and we'll say -1, and that means the last column name that was filled in, which is the one we just made. We just filled in, we appended to our data frame an empty line. So in that last one where it says it should be the column name, which is team, we want to put in our team name. So we want to put in equals column value. Okay, and then the same thing with the year. We want to make sure that we record that this was a year where the team didn't exist according to this database that we got it from. So we'll say new underscore df, and we'll say year, and the same thing, dot iloc -1 equals, and we can just say year. All right, and so then what happens? So now we're going to try to do the thing we used to do, and assuming that the team is there. But if the team is not there and Python throws an error, it's going to start doing this instead. And we've already created our new data frame, and we've put the year in it, and we've put all the other keys in it. So when we do this PD series, it's going to fill all of those with nothing, and it's going to ignore the index like we want. Then it will go back and retroactively rename the team name to the team name that we know it should be, and the year to the year that we know it should be. And so we should end up with identical spreadsheets, which have, some of them are all filled, some of them have lots of empty values until the team exists, and then if the team stops existing, then it continues to have empty values up till 2019. And then so it should write a unique team spreadsheet for each team. And since we've already used an F string here with a column value, which is our team name, and from 1954 to 2019, it's going to fill it. It's going to create a new spreadsheet with each team name that we chose. So I think this looks like it's ready to go. Let me just check my spacing. All my spacings look good. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to hit this play button up here to run it. Okay, so here, if year equals years, that should be a double equal. Some of you probably caught that. But when you're doing a comparison, you have to use double equal. So this is just this test here is saying, again, is the year the first in the list of the years? And if it is, create all the headings in the data frame that we want. Okay, let's try again. All right, now it is running it. And let me close that. Close that. So it doesn't run into an error where it's trying to recreate a file that's already open, because Python it'll say, look, I can't make this file if it's already open. So I had some of those files open. I'm closing them. I apparently did it in time. And it takes a little while because it's creating whatever number of teams there were over those 66 years. It's creating a spreadsheet for each one. But once it's done, it will give us some indication of that on the screen here. All right. So it gave us a few warnings, and that's okay. Some of that probably has to do with the way we defined our new data frame, but it didn't give us any errors, and it came back to this new heading here. So we'll go into our Open Office, and we will open one of these files. And so now we can just pick any file we want. We could say Houston, and we'll look and see. So Houston didn't exist until this year, which was 1962, and it has existed until 2019 at least. So I'm supposing that's the Houston Astros. Let's open and see another team, PHA. I have no idea what that team is. And they only existed in 1954. So we caught the tail end of them. So we're not going to get a great plot out of their batting average. But we can see that the spreadsheet worked just like we wanted it to, right? It recorded this team in the year it existed. In the years that it did not exist, it recorded emptiness. But it recorded the team name and the year. So that is the behavior we were looking for. Let's open another one, because some of these are interesting. Let's look at KCA. All right, so they're a team that did not exist in 1954. They did exist in 1955, and then they stopped existing in 1967, or 68, I suppose. And so one thing that you may notice here in the Open Office, and again, I can't be sure that this happens in Excel, but so I'm sure that in Python I'm not getting any errors when I try to treat all these columns as numbers. But you see how up here they're left or right justified, over here they're left justified. If we look in this column, it's got this hanging single quote, and what I've found online is that seems to be some bug in Open Office. And so the best way to get rid of that, if you are using Open Office, is to do a search and replace. And you have to use this special, you use a caret dot, and you say you want to replace it with an ampersand, but you have to use more options and click this box for regular expressions. And if you do that, you say replace all, then it turns all of those back into numbers. So that is the fastest way that I've found to search and replace if you're using Open Office and you have this problem. If you're using Excel and you have this problem, then you have to do your own figuring out. But okay, well, so now we've seen how to create these spreadsheets and to handle some data exceptions. We made a set of all the team names so that we didn't double up on team names. We did a loop through them. So we did a generalized read for all the teams. And now we have individual spreadsheets for all the teams. We could have also done something like we did before, where instead of, we could have, we had one spreadsheet with 66 tabs for each year. We could have made one spreadsheet with whatever number of teams there are and that many tabs. And you can see that we did name it down here with the team name tab. So we could have done it like that. I preserved the format we started with just for simplicity on my part, not having to reinvent the wheel there. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and please stick around for the next one.